When I was 18, me and some friends took a road trip about 7 hours or so down to the Appalachian National Forest near Tallahassee, Florida. We were going to do a little car camp and drink a few ice cold natty lights, 18-year-old stuff. As such, we didn't want to be bothered by any park rangers, so we drove way deep into the woods. Got there, set up camp, and had set up natty lights, and me and my guy decided to go do a little exploring. So we walked about 100 yards from our campsite to the main road, saw another path directly from us, and started walking. Immediately, we started seeing signs that someone had lived there for a while. Big bags of trash, stuff like that. Should have been a huge red flag to turn around. But 18, nothing could hurt us. So we get to this campsite, and an older white guy living out of his van, clotheslines strung up, coolers places around it, and a big, gorgeous dog. I think maybe a golden retriever. We tried to back out, but he sees us and starts talking. He's friendly enough, asks us where we're from, tells us about some cool spots to check out in the park, and we end up chatting for 10 minutes and then going on our way. I kept thinking to myself how odd it was that he gave directions in steps, not yards or miles. Guy always seemed to be off balance, not stumbling drunk, but was walking off on a balance beam, swaying side to side. Owen was super excited to talk about national parks and forests, where we were from. Okay, camping part over. We went back to our tents. Fast forward 2 months. Same buddy calls me late at night and tells me to turn on TV to the news. I oblige. I see an old dude with a van. You see where this is going. You see where it's headed, right? But I didn't. So I get pissed at my friend for waking me up. No, watch. And then I see the golden retriever, and it all clicks. What the fuck? That man's name was Gary Michael Hilton, convicted at 4 murders. He kidnapped and murdered a girl on Blood Mountain, Georgia, an older couple in Payson, North Carolina, and a girl in Appalachia at that campsite not long after we left. Yes, that very same places he had been talking to us about. Obviously, we called the cops. They put us in touch with the FBI. F is for Florida. And we get flown down to take investigators to the campsite, point out every spot we saw, tell them exactly what he told us, and show them the places he described to us. I didn't find out until after the trial, but apparently they found what appeared to be partially destroyed human finger bones in an area near the site. Had to be flown down again to testify. New Year's Day, 1995. I was in the middle of third year university. A bunch of friends had came down to visit me and my roommate for the festivities. We were all pretty hungover from drinking the night before and went out for the usual day out, and a bit chilly. I don't feel so good. Post greasy breakfast hangover, stroll around the neighborhood. 2 of these friends were twin brothers. One of them we hung out all the time. The other was just met for the first time. He was pretty normal the night before, joining in on the fun. But on this day, we were all hanging around a local basketball court, shooting hoops with an old basketball we found in the grass, and his twin brother kept following me around all over the place with the creepiest grin I'd ever seen in my life, staring right into the neither regions of my soul the whole time. I'd back away and join the group again, and he'd keep following me around. When we were walking back to the apartment, it was just me and him walking down to the sidewalk behind the group, and he moved over in front of me, stared at me with that creepy look again, and fell down to his knees as if to worship me or something. I didn't know what to do. Hey buddy, you alright? We're heading back now, right? And so on. He wouldn't say anything, and he'd just be there on his knees looking up, be there on his knees at me, and a clenched face and squinted eyes as if he were looking directly into the sun or something. Later that day, my roomie said he was tripping balls, so I thought nothing of it and moved on with my life. A few weeks later, we got a phone call from the twin brother we usually hung out with, and it turned out that his twin brother went over to his aunt's place with a knife and stabbed her 14 times. She didn't die, but she's still pretty bad. He had been even called the police before because he knew he was going to do it, but he couldn't stop himself from doing it because the voices and so on. The ensuing court case was widely covered in the media, and this was a relatively smaller community where this sort of thing doesn't happen on a regular basis. I was reading one of the articles, and one of the testimonies was that this twin brother was severely schizophrenic, and he was hearing voices in his head. He believed his very bones that his aunt was the devil, and he had been commanded by God to go and kill her. So who was this God that told him to go kill her? Well, as the newspaper article described, it was a guy in the group he hung out with on New Year's Day. Didn't take me long to realize that he was talking about me. This was 22 years ago. I know for a fact it was mental illness, but just knowing that I had somehow commanded him to go kill his aunt stays with me to this day. Last December, I was visiting my family down in Florida, and we spent some time in Treasure Island. My brother and I took my dog down to the beach at about 2 a.m. to play some fetch and drink and have a good time. If you walk along the water, you can reach a few restaurants and hotels that line the beach. Out of nowhere, we see someone walking pretty quickly in our direction from over there, and a few moments later, we can make out that they're being followed. My dog is arguably pretty well trained. We work search and rescue, and I've never once had to run her off without permission, and never once has she not instantly returned when called, but that changed that night. She was about 5 feet from me, and I saw her hackles shoot up and went to grab her collar, but she took off in full sprint, making some truly terrifying barking and growling sounds. We obviously took off after her, and she reached the first person and stopped between them and the people behind them, and she was barking and growling and lunging, and I finally caught up and put her on the leash. She never reacted in that manner, so it was scary. The group following her ended up being 3 men that was probably in their early 30s. They started booking it in the other direction. I turned around, and one person being followed was a young woman around my age. We asked if she was okay, and she just broke down in tears and collapsed into my brother. My dog insisted she got on the ground for some excited puppy kisses and soaking wet cuddle, which they both seemed to enjoy. She was far too overwhelmed to talk, so she got into her phone and rang up her friend's number to have us talk to her. We were able to figure out where she was staying, and walk her back to her hotel, where we met her up with her friends, and we all exchanged numbers to take at a later time. The next day, we all got together, where we learned she had been gone out for a walk on the beach, stopped for a drink at the bar, drank a bit, and then just wasn't feeling right, so she left the bar and soon noticed 3 men left after her. She had been walking for about a mile at that point, terrified and slowly getting more and more fucked up. She doesn't remember much about the night, and we knew she was probably on something, but we had no clue she had been drugged. We're still friends now, and we're all gonna meet up for spring break when we all go back in Florida. I've never been more proud of my dog and more grateful that we were in the right place at the right time. I hate thinking about what could have happened to those 3 men. Let's never meet.